what if Tank Davis, who can punch, who is a hell of a fighter, who is a top 10 pound-for-pound fighter, what if he lands a punch on this bigger guy's chin, right, who's not a professional fighter? What happens?
But if they do it for real, Tank is highly capable of taking Jake Paul out. So the exhibitions that I like to see are ones that either I can mythically look at and say, wow, well, if he would have did that back when he was 10 years younger or 8 years or 12 years ago, he would have beat him. You understand me? Because we know boxing.
Which if he hits you because he's so accurate, he's gonna drop you or put you to sleep. But like not necessarily power punch. Like Edwin De Los Santos is a hard.
Boxing legends break down why Gervonta Tank Davis would destroy Jake Paul within 3 rounds. Gareth A. Davis points out how Tank stayed calm and quiet during the press conference, barely reacting to Jake's height jokes or trash talk. He believes Tank's silence isn't fear, it's focus. Gareth explains that while Tank may seem hesitant now, once the bell rings, his explosive combinations will completely silence Jake Paul.
Yes, sir. He reminds me of a northern football fan being dragged to a shopping centre on a Saturday afternoon rather than being allowed to go to his favourite Liverpool seat. You'll relate to that, won't you?
Yeah.
It was almost like he'd been shackled and dragged there against his will. Even when they faced off, it was as if Jake Paul had a bad smell about him or something. He didn't want to get near Jake Paul. He didn't want to. Just going to plug this in as well. I just realised it's not plugged in. It was almost as if he didn't want to indulge anyone at all. Like he'd signed up against his will, and then. It's like he'd been signed up against his will. The agents and his manager and his handler had dragged him there without briefing him on what was going on and where it would be and what time it would take place. And there was this oaf in his mind standing there in front of him, this big oaf who kept posturing, and it just didn't do anything to him. I wondered at one point whether he was going to burst out with a combination of punches or something and just drop Jake Paul, who was being, measuring him up and going down to his height, and it was all very peculiar in my view. Like he really wasn't taking it seriously.
Ryan Garcia doesn't hold back, calling the Jake Paul vs. Gervonta Davis fight an insult to boxing. He slams the massive size and weight difference, saying it's not competition, it's a circus built for views. To Ryan, boxing is about skill, legacy, and fairness, not clout or viral fame. Watching a lightweight like Tank face a much bigger Jake Paul feels wrong to him. He warns that this fight sends a terrible message, that hype and money outweigh honor and discipline. For Garcia, this matchup mocks the sport he loves.
Mainly Jake's, and we're not falling for the Disney Channel bit no more. We're not falling for you're not a fighter no more. We're not falling for that. You're ranked as a cruiserweight and you're out here trying to fight a lightweight. And then on top of it, you were just talking about fighting Anthony Joshua. That doesn't make no sense. And, I just felt like it was a disgrace to boxing, and kind of it was not a good move by Jake Paul. I understand people saying, Gervonta got to go get his money, blah, blah, blah. But, we're not talking about that shit. We're talking about the sport, bro. We're not talking about, you got to get that money, bro. Yeah, but everybody's open to criticism. That's the whole point of this media shit. That's why they talk about basketball players. They don't talk about, LeBron's making too much. Nobody cares, bro. If LeBron's missing the shot, he's missing the fucking shot. So at the end of the day, bro, I just thought it was a disgrace to the sport. Because on one end, you got the casuals, right? The casuals don't see the weight difference. They see Jake Paul and Gervonta Davis. Yeah. And if Gervonta Davis doesn't fuck up Jake Paul, they're going to think Jake Paul is some pound-for-pound champion type of fighter. Yeah. And to me, that's just, it's tricking the public, and it's kind of bullshit, bro, at the end of the day. Because at the end of the day, if Gervonta was Jake Paul's size, we wouldn't even be having this conversation. There probably wouldn't even be a fight. Yeah, you know what I mean? So I just think that it's a disgrace to boxing.
Well, we got to play devil's advocate, because people are saying, well, Ryan, you called out Jake Paul before too, so how would you say that? What do you have to say to the people that were saying that?
Well, I'm way bigger than Gervonta Davis. Gervonta Davis is 5'4", and his last fight was at 133. My last fight was 147, and I walk around 170. So, I mean, 170 to 190, whatever, you know, however big is not too much difference. But you got Gervonta Davis, he's actually really small. Like, when I fought him, he's small. Yeah. So I just think it's a very unfair fight. Nobody was complaining when Jake Paul was fighting Julio Cesar Chavez. Right. Nobody was complaining when he's fighting Anthony Joshua. And I still think Jake Paul's a cool dude. But shit, he's calling me out on my shit. I'm gonna call him out on his shit, bro. That's a fucking disgrace of a fight. Yeah. You know it. Just like Mike Tyson, low key was a disgrace, but we accepted it. But he was 60 years old. I mean, right. What the f we talking about 60. Here?
Sean Porter offers a veteran's perspective, saying this fight shows how modern boxing has shifted from legacy to profit. He argues that fighters like Tank, once focused on greatness, now chase quick money instead of challenges that define true champions. Porter says legends used to risk their records for glory, but today's stars risk their reputations for paychecks. He respects Tank's talent but criticizes him for wasting it on spectacles that erode boxing's soul.
How do you sort of see this scenario now for him?
Yeah, I don't really know how to feel about it, what to really say about it. I've only been asked this when it's you know, presented to me. That's when I think about it, and I can't really come up with a good answer for it. In a lot of ways, it doesn't make sense to me. Of course, we know the size differential, and it kind of the list goes on from there. I don't know, man. I think we're entering we're entering a generation now, or a phase now where fighters, I don't know if it's fighters, I don't know if he doesn't care about the legacy, or if he feels like this fight doesn't matter, I'll get back to the legacy. I just don't know. This is truly not, it's not a legacy fight, but of course it is a generational money fight, you know. So
analysts say the problem isn't just with fighters, it's with the audience. Fans reward drama over skill, tuning in for trash talk instead of technique. True boxing matchups go unnoticed while influencer fights dominate headlines. They argue that social media's obsession with chaos has blurred the line between sport and entertainment. Real boxers fight for belts, influencers fight for clicks. As long as fans keep paying for spectacle, substance will keep losing.
Has evolved to where it's at. I'll expand on that. For one, you have good fights where I'm not talking about these type of fights, crossover type of fight, former Disney guy, influencer stuff, not. And Jake Paul has really promoted himself and acquitted himself to the point where he's kind of a boxer. Now, he hasn't fought the top names, I get it, blah, blah, blah. But he's doing his thing. He's training like a boxer. He's not like taking it lightly, like streaming and then working on his YouTube more than he's working on his boxing. It is what it is, right? But beyond that, let's keep it going. I told you I'm about to really get unpacked. Subscribe to the channel. The reality is, the reason why I'm saying I blame you, the fans, is because we've had some very good fights, like David Benavidez, Caleb Plant, whatever. I'm talking in the last 5-10 years, right? Very good fights, all boxing. So not talking influencer or any type of crossover fight, right? Good fights, and then you got boxing fans in a niche sport who didn't further the exposure by advertising or buying the fight, mostly buying the fight with piracy and whatnot. So now we're at a point in this society where these companies, they're like, all right, they see the piracy is a problem. Now they're looking for a sure shot, must win type of scenario.
Experts raise serious safety concerns about the massive size gap. Jake Paul is a cruiserweight, while Tank naturally fights at lightweight. Even with superior skill, physics still matter. Reach, power, and weight can't be ignored. Analysts warn that putting Tank against Jake is not just unfair, but dangerous. Jake can take punches from much bigger men, while Tank would need to fight uphill every second. To purists, this matchup proves boxing's rules are bending under entertainment pressure.
Paul fight. Tank, you know, a massively powerful fighter at 135 pounds, but his punch output is among the lowest in the sport. Jake has a pretty decent punch output for a guy that's 200 pounds. He hits hard in his own right, but doesn't have the skill and capabilities anywhere close or the feet or the hand speed or the eyes anywhere close to Tank Davis, but has a power that Tank Davis has probably never felt, but just because Jake is naturally 70 pounds bigger than him, right? So 10 rounds, 3 minutes, who starts to show the wear and tear first? I know if Tank touches him on the jaw, it's probably not going to feel like roses, regardless if he's 135 or 150 or whatever he steps in that night. He's still a Tank and has still put guys down as he's gone up in weight, but Jake is just so much.
Showbiz The Adult examines Tank's legacy, saying it's becoming fragile. Critics already accuse Tank of avoiding tough fights, and this matchup with Jake only adds fuel. He explains that if fighters like Lamont Roach perform better against Tank's past opponents, it makes fans question Tank's dominance. Showbiz warns that while fighting Jake may bring money, it damages Tank's credibility and weakens his claim to greatness.
Better than Tank. I don't even know how you cannot have him better than Tank. People question Tank's resume anyway. But if you make Tank take a knee and they don't call it a knockdown and you still get the draw, you beat him. You beat Tank. And then you dominate Pitbull, one of Tank's best wins. Bro, you better than him. The resume, listen, bro. I didn't say greater, I said better. The resume means politics. Ryan was just saying it. Lamont Roach could have been on a back burner and they were holding him back, so he had to go down to 130. Doing the grunt work like Marvelous Marvin Hagler, waiting for his time to shine. Resume, if the business chooses you, they can move you along right. He actually get cherry picked and he best Tank, and then he stops Pitbull. He's better. Y'all know how the business of boxing works. You just saw Terrence Crawford actually be the best fighter we've seen in decades. The man, Terrence Crawford, can arguably be better than Floyd Mayweather. Y'all saw the business shitting for all of his career, practically all of his career. And you see that he's better than Melo? What a surprise! We've been a guy coming from lightweight can beat Nello at...
Lamont Roach reveals a behind-the-scenes business twist. Tank was contractually expected to take a rematch against a top contender, but he chose Jake Paul instead. Roach says that decision exposes Tank's shifting priorities, money over integrity. He stresses that real fighters honor their contracts and their word. Fans, he says, feel betrayed, since the real rematch would have given Tank a chance to silence critics.
Even if this whole Jake situation was in the way, holler at me. Tell me you want to fight Jake. Tell me you got a bag coming up. All right, boom. Like, it's a way to handle that. We have a contract. You cannot breach a contract and think shit just gonna be sweet. You can't. You can't do that. We have a contract. So it's not like this wasn't supposed to happen or whatever the case may be, and he just went and took the Jake route. We had a signed contract to fight. So him breaching the contract is, if y'all put yourself in my shoes, you gotta think, I'm looking forward to fighting and getting paid. I'm looking forward to fighting and winning so I could be two-time world champ. Me. I'm in training for a fight to be a champion in another weight class and for me to be crowned champion twice in my career. And this just go ghost and then end up announcing another fight. Put yourself in my shoes.
Did you find out just like the rest of us did?
Kinda. So I was on the fence because they didn't announce. They was like, all right, we're going to announce.
Max Kellerman brings a balanced view, acknowledging Jake Paul's business genius. He says no one in boxing today generates buzz like Jake does. That's why even elite fighters accept his offers, not for respect, but for reach. Kellerman and Paulie Malignaggi debate if Tank's knockout power can overcome Jake's size. Both agree Tank's explosiveness is unmatched, but size might neutralize his biggest weapon.
current heavyweight.
But if he was a real knockout artist,
current champion.
if he was a real knockout artist, prop him up against the best of the best. Felix Trinidad was a knockout artist. He was knocking out the best of the best. If you're a real knockout artist, prop him up against the best and show us how he smokes them. But the way
Paulie,
we did
also,
when Felix Trinidad was doing it. You know, the way
Felix
that
Trinidad
Mike
was
Tyson was doing it in his prime. Okay, say what you want about the Mike Tyson era.
now-
He knocked out everyone from 1986 to 1989. Everyone got knocked out. Everyone.
Well, by your standard, you could say that Tyson was to a degree manufactured.
No,
and
because
Teddy
he
Atlas
fought
100%,
everyone that was there. Everyone that was there at that time he fought.
Teddy Atlas will 100% agree with this.
With the expense
he
of
would say the guys
Witherspoon.
that were afraid of
With
him.
the exception of Witherspoon. No, but they all doesn't matter. He knocked them all out. There was nobody you could say in that era except maybe Witherspoon, who had contract
say the same thing about
who had contract issues with King at the time. Except for Witherspoon, there is nobody.
Comedian Eddie Griffin ends with a cynical take calling Jake Paul's fights Hollywood boxing. He claims these events are less about competition and more about control, where outcomes are guided to protect profits. He even references Mike Tyson's exhibition, saying it was clearly managed for entertainment, not victory. Griffin suggests the same could happen here. If Jake gets knocked out too early, the money stops. If he lasts, a hype grows. Either way, controversy sells, and that's what modern boxing has become.
John, you know Mike Tyson could have just knocked Jake Paul's face into the canvas, but he got paid to pull punches, otherwise he wouldn't have got paid. Pretty sure the same is going for Gervonta Davis. It's a quick money grab. And most of y'all gonna be suckers who tune in. It's just quick money grab. That's all I'm saying. Ain't gonna be no fight. I don't give a fuck how big Jake Paul is. He can't take one of them little mother tank punches. Tank move furniture. Move furniture. Catch that motherfucking move furniture. And Jake don't like his furniture moved, so he gonna pay him not to hit him again. If you really want to show out Gervonta, sign a contract that you ain't gonna hit him, because if you hit him, you lose all the money. And then whoop that motherfucker's ass, put him to sleep, and get him out the boxing game once and for all. Just go up here.
That's it for today's video. Stay tuned for more updates and breakdowns from the world of boxing.